Hey everyone, Amy Bowser-Tennant here, the Genealogy Reporter, and it is Family Story Friday. That's where I share stories from my own family history or yours. If you have a fun family story, I'd love to hear about it. Send me an email, which I will put the address in the details below. So today we're talking about the jokesters in the family. And I think we all have that one person in the family that's the joker, the one that, cuts up, plays tricks, pranks everybody. And so I have a few stories that I'd like to share with you about a man named Jasper Daniels. And Jasper was born and raised in Harlan County, Kentucky. He fits into my family tree on my Hensley family line. And he was really quite the cut up. He had quite a few good stories. And I don't know if it comes from the Hensley family that he gets his humor, because I know that my own family, the Hensley line, they were pretty funny people too. My uncle Paul Hensley was known for his extravagant pranks and jokes that he would play on people. So maybe that's where it comes from. But I found these fun stories about his joking behavior in a book titled Harlan County, The Martin Fort Connection. And Judy, Hensley, Bryson, and also Gladys Hensley were interviewing many people in Harlan County, Kentucky about the old days and what they would remember. And it's like looking through a family book, even though it's about the county, because so many of them are interrelated and related to me. So these are stories about a man named Jasper Daniels, quite the little character. And they are told by his nephew, Ernest Hensley, to Judy Hensley Bryson. So I'm going to read you two of these really funny stories and hope that I don't laugh to the point where I end up having an asthma attack. This one they've titled Gabriel's Horn. There was a circuit riding preacher who used to come and hold revivals up and down Martin's Fork. That's in Harlan County, Kentucky. He preached in the tradition of the old-timey preachers who often preached half the day and into the night. When he came to preach, he stayed with one family or the other and took his meals and board with them while he was holding services. This particular preacher had a habit of getting carried away while he was preaching and saying, "I wouldn't care if Gabriel would blow his trumpet right now." Well, Uncle Jasper heard him make that statement a lot. So many times that he decided to do something about it. He took a foxhorn and climbed up in the rafters of the old log church before folks gathered in for the service. He stayed up there, quiet as a mouse, waiting for just the right moment. And sure enough, that preacher got in a big way of preaching, and he said, "I wouldn't care if Gabriel would blow his horn right now." And that was the moment that Uncle Jasper had been waiting for. He blew that foxhorn with all his might. The congregation scattered in all directions, some under the pews and some out the doors. And the last thing the preacher said in that service was, "Oh, Gabriel, can't you take a joke?" That's a good one. Okay, here's another one. Oh, I'm sorry. Gabriel's... Grandma's Wake. Again, this is something that little Jasper Daniels did. In the old days, when someone died, they were not kept at a funeral home, but brought back to their own home and sat up with them for 2 or 3 days and nights. The departed soul was laid out on their own bed during this time and instead of a casket. Now, I'll stop right there for a minute. My own family, who lived and died there in Harlan County and also in Lee County, Virginia, they did something similar. They would bring the body in and lay it on a table, usually in the back room. So it wasn't in a bedroom on a bed. I suppose that would be because maybe there wasn't a specific room for the deceased. Nothing like going to sleep at night with a dead person next to you. But anyway, so they would put them on the table. But in this case, she was laid to rest on a bed. During that time, relatives and friends from all over the community gathered in. They brought food, they had church services, sang, prayed, and generally didn't go home until the dead person was buried. That means buried. At night, there would be people sleeping all over the place, but someone always stayed up with the body until it was buried. These traditions were carried on from life in the old countries hundreds of years before we ever came to the Kentucky mountains. The more people who attended the service, or the wake, the more people considered them to have been loved. Also, the ones who grieved the loudest were considered to be the ones who loved the departed the most. So it made for a really interesting time. A wake was pretty much of a social event. You got to see the people that you might not have seen for years, and it was time to honor the dead but also catch up on life beyond the mountains. Uncle Jasper's granny had died. All the folks had been gathered in for a couple days and were getting pretty worn out. So was Uncle Jasper. He decided it was time to stir things up a little. He watched his chance to catch no one paying attention. They were gathered in to eat, and Jasper snuck up under the bed where his granny was laid out. When the crowd gathered back in, he took his back and began to push up under the mattress and raise Granny up and down. People were screaming and running for the doors. It turned into a madhouse. When the first shock wore off, one of the men said, "Where's Jasper Daniels?" Someone looked under the bed, and sure enough, there was Jasper under there. They asked him what in the world he was doing, and he replied, "I was just hooving up Granny." Oh, I think that's pretty funny, and can imagine many a little boy getting to the end of his rope with boredom and maybe doing something like that. Funny little stories that really make a family history come to life. I want to encourage you today, it being Friday, to sit down and write a couple of your funny memories from your past or your parents or your grandparents and record those stories somewhere, whether that's in an email that you send out to several people or on your hard drive or Google Drive or even blog about it. Family stories shared with others work as cousin bait. And cousin bait is something that you throw out there and somebody somewhere reads and says, "I recognize that family. I'm part of that family too." And maybe then they'll contact you and share their fun stories. So good times. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Join us again on Tuesday for Genealogy Tip Tuesday, Thursday for Genealogy Thursday Thoughts, and again, of course, on Fridays for Family Story Friday. Please like this video if you so choose and subscribe to our channel. I appreciate it. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.